God, if I'm doing steroids, ugh, I want my money back.
Hey man, be honest with me. Are you taking anything? Because you've gained a lot of muscle in the past few months. You sure not on anything that I should know about?
Just chicken and broccoli, man. That's all I do. Chicken and broccoli every day.
You're on the Hollywood chicken and broccoli
The
diet?
Hollywood diet. Yep.
You're like Kumail? You hopped onto that diet?
Who's
with
that?
him? That's that guy that turned into a Jack Indian
Superhero
superhero.
Yep.
You're on his diet?
I'm on his broccoli specifically.
And
It's
the
a
rocks,
special broccoli.
all that broccoli. That's good
Yep.
broccoli.
I inject it into me. Today we're going to be discussing a recent episode from a channel called Jubilee that took natural bodybuilders and bodybuilders that are openly on steroids, and they're basically discussing, is taking steroids cheating?
Is it? What do you think?
We shall
Let's
find out.
Welcome back to another episode of the Be Fit Brothers pod. Yeah! Victor and Julian here, and we're back. I just made that song, by the way. We're back in Be Fit, Miami Lakes, the favorite place to be, the place that... No, fuck.
Come on, man. Come on.
What's up, guys? Victor and Julian here in Be Fit, Miami Lakes, your favorite place to be, the best place to work out, have some coffee, and have some laughs, let's be honest. And today we're going to be discussing what he just talked about, a nice little YouTube video. If you guys haven't watched it, we're going to put the clip there if you guys want to watch it first, and then we're going to discuss it. So let's get right into it.
Let's. And by the way, this isn't the first time that we've done a discussion about a Jubilee episode. We did one that was very engaging. A lot of people, it started a lot of conversations. That was titled, Is Obesity a Choice? So if you're interested in that, click right here.
No, here.
Yeah, I know. I'm pointing that way.
No, over here.
Like here.
Yeah,
It's
there you
only there, by the way.
Oh,
Yeah.
damn, now I have it
floating
looming
here
I have it
somewhere.
looming over me.
So before we get into it, a quick little caveat. This obviously would be a more important topic to people who are either competing in bodybuilding, whether it's natural bodybuilding or the regular bodybuilding, which is implied that people are on gear. However, I do think
gear?
Gear is what a common slang term to describe anabolic steroid use.
Oh, gear. I like
Yep. AKA sauce, AKA juice,
it. AKA chicken and broccoli.
chicken and broccoli. We were talking to the Hollywood peeps.
Wink, wink.
But I do think it applies to the population, and it strikes up an important conversation that even if you have nothing to do with that world, you're going to see why it's relevant to just general pop.
Yeah, I agree. I think everybody should have at least a little bit of knowledge in this area because as fitness professionals, we get asked all the time, is so-and-so on steroids? Is this person's physique achievable? And I think we're going to answer a lot of those questions here.
Also, it's not just steroids, but like a lot of people are on testosterone replacement therapy,
Yep.
which is not technically steroids, but it's somewhat related. A lot of people are on pharmaceuticals, and the stuff that we're going to talk about here directly correlates to like Ozempic and that kind of like those pharmaceuticals as well. And then, of course, we live in South Florida, Miami, probably the steroid capital of the world, or one of them for sure.
Yep. If you haven't seen Juiced, go watch and you'll find out.
So the way this Jubilee show works is they get people from different sides of the aisle, and then they give them a prompt. So they'll say a prompt, and then if you agree with the prompt, you step forward, they discuss, and then if you disagree, you step forward, and then they have a good old-fashioned debate. So we're gonna actually go through the prompts because they're super interesting, and then we'll have our own little discussion here. So first prompt is, steroids are dangerous and should not be normalized in fitness. What would you say to that?
I would agree with it just mainly because of the fragility of the youth. If you're aware of the dangers and you're educated and you're aware of the repercussions and you still want to do it, that's a different story. But as we know, young people are very impressionable and they see somebody online, especially nowadays. Everybody's looking up on Instagram. I don't know why I did this. We're on our phones. Everybody's on Instagram, clicking away on their typewriter. And they're comparing their physiques to others. And let's be honest, some of the things you see out there are not attainable. Some of the people we used to follow when we started, Simian Pandas, Ulysses World, those guys were
It's funny you mentioned
ridiculous.
those guys because those guys are supposedly claimed to be natural, so they're part of the natural community, believe it or not. I know. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Put
Sure.
a picture of them up there.
Yeah, we're going to put pictures here comparing them to us. So yeah, I do think it's dangerous mainly because of the lack of education. But if it's something like, it's like smoking cigarettes, and I think they mentioned on the video.
They do.
The problem is when the fitness industry takes something and they amplify it. I think that's what you guys are arguing. That the young fitness influencers who are promoting copious drug use to get to their goals, making millions of dollars on YouTube, it's gonna get a lot of kids to do it as well.
Here's the thing, just because something's dangerous, like abusing steroids dangerous, that doesn't mean we shouldn't normalize it. Like, you guys are saying we shouldn't normalize steroids, it's bad, but you're also watching the Olympia. Those are the people that blast grams of gear. Like, things that are awesome, entertaining, are dangerous. UFC, dangerous. NFL, dangerous. You guys all watch.
If you're willing to put yourself in danger for it, and it's on you, it's on you at the end of the day. So, but it is dangerous. There's no debating.
Yeah,
that.
the second part about should not be normalized in fitness, I completely agree. I think that having awareness of an issue, of awareness of let's talk about steroids is great, and some influencers are doing that. However, normalizing is a whole nother thing. It's like taking something that does have dangers and health consequences and just saying like, yeah, you know, it's really not that big of a deal, or if you do it right, then it's not that dangerous.
I'm glad you said that, because if you do it right, is a huge one, and most of the people that end up taking steroids end up abusing steroids, sadly. Rarely are you like,
we're gonna talk about that,
on a nice controlled cycle. So,
well, more than that, for example, here in South Florida, we are exposed to that from an early age because, you know, it's it's kind of like the wild, wild west out here for some things. So I recall when I first started going to the gym, you would see dudes like in the locker room with like vials of what looks like oil, and they didn't have a label on it. They would get it from God knows where. Obviously, it's a black market thing. And these guys, I kid you not, they didn't know what they were taking. I told you that it's something, you know? So, I hope that's the thing. But you had no idea. You weren't doing like the post. You're supposed to do like the right way to do it. You're supposed to do a post cycle. You're supposed to take other things to counteract the negative effects. They weren't doing any of that. So it was the wild, wild west. I mean, every guy who's listening to this from Miami knows multiple other guys or themselves that have done it or tried it.
And the funny thing is that Miami and South Florida is really a pipeline for so many sports, especially like football, baseball. So if you tell me like these guys are taking it because they're trying to be competitive, no, they're doing it for literally for the vanity of it. Like everybody I went to high school with, they ended up like, they'd go away for summer and come back huge. And I'm like, oh, damn, I got to hop on that workout plan. But it was all, like you said, taking God knows what.
Yeah.
And it's not safe.
And then you just say chicken and broccoli, or I was eating more steaks.
Yeah,
that was the code word.
No, but a lot of people were honest too. It's like, oh no, I did steroids. And I was like, oh, okay, cool.
I guess when you were young enough to not care about your reputation. But for some reason, it became taboo after that.
Should it be taboo?
Well, here's what I want to talk about. So I want to get into some of the points that the natural bodybuilders made and then what the steroid guys made, because they did make some good points on both sides, and then we could discuss. So one of the things the natty guys said, natty, by the way, is code word for natural, using a lot of slang here. So the natural guy said, the obvious one, there are health consequences. So yes, steroids are objectively dangerous because of those health consequences.
And there are many health risks that I feel as though they're not spoken about enough, and that's one of the biggest problems. And we can go down a list of like cardiovascular issues, liver damage, skin and hair changing, heart problems, ultimately death if you go far enough.
The other thing they said is that people cheat by saying they're not on steroids and then being on steroids and then competing in natural competition, because there's always ways. I mean, athletes do it. There's always a way to kind of cheat the system. You know when you're getting tested.
Yeah. And somebody in the video said it's like after 7 years, you're still considered natural even if you used steroids 7 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. So you could have built a bunch of muscle with steroids and then gone
7 years later, exactly.
You're clean. You still keep a lot of that muscle even if you get off the steroids. So that's a good point. The other thing they said was that when you were talking about like the impressionable youth, like a lot, and this is my biggest pet peeve, is the influencers that are clearly on something and they claim, not only do they not say, because I understand not saying it. Like maybe you just don't mention it, like The Rock. Just don't say it. I know you're on it, but don't say it. But then there's the guys that swear that they're natural. No, I've never touched the stuff.
The funny thing is those guys are always hyper defensive. You just mention like a little injection. I think people just comment injections, like little needles. What the fuck? No, I'm not on. Like, come on, man. At least be upfront about it.
Yeah, and then you got people like Liver King who, you know, at 46, 47 years old, the guy is like as muscular as
vascular,
red veins everywhere, the crazy traps. It's like, dude, we know.
I'm only eating organs.
Not only are you on gear, but you're like on a dangerous amount of like
and it did come out.
It did come out. I mean,
his receipts were shown, and it was a lot of stuff.
And that validates people like me. And I'll admit, I am one of those. And people say, "Oh, you're a hater. You just don't know what hard work feels like." No, it's like, dude, you're clearly on gear, and the responsible thing to do is to tell all these other people, hey, look, I'm on this stuff. Yes, I am on it. I still work very hard, so you can't take that away from me, but just be honest about it.
Yeah, that's something that one of the natty guys said, like, maybe these guys are just such hard workers that they need something. I don't agree, because you could still work just as hard without it. I mean,
that guy, you know,
No, that guy was
that
a
guy was
bozo.
not the sharpest tool in the shed. Let's just say that.
That's the guy with the tattoo on his neck, right? That guy's a
yeah.
moron.
He didn't say all his takes were ridiculous.
And it was always like trying to play devil's advocate for something that didn't make any sense. It was weird.
Yeah, mind you, he's one of the ones that everyone
Is the most
agrees
famous one.
is on.
Oh
it.
yeah. Him and Joshua Sean, I think his name was.
Yeah. Okay, so some of the stuff that the steroid guys said. And by the way, should we get into what some of those health consequences are? Because I'm assuming people know.
Go
but
ahead, list
they
them
may
off.
not. So cardiovascular issues, you get testicular atrophy, which basically means your balls shrink. That's the old common one.
They can get smaller?
Sucks, right? I know. Can't afford that.
I'm doomed. Well, I'm not taking anything.
Basically, what happens
Clearly.
basically what happens is as you introduce like an external testosterone or other anabolic hormones to your body, basically your balls are producing testosterone, right? So it's
The factory dries out.
Pretty much, it's like I have enough testosterone circulating through my body, more than enough actually. So the gonads, the balls just say, okay, let me stop, producing, and they literally like just stop doing their job. As a matter of fact, it can lead to fertility issues as well.
Yeah.
A lot of people young men don't realize that. So that's from that side. It could lead to, like, believe it or not, libido issues, even though it's known to increase your libido. But what happens when you get off of it?
Yeah, in the long run.
Physical things like gynecomastia, which is basically, I'm not going to say the word.
Moobs. We'll
but
call them
it's-
moobs.
Yeah.
Look
No,
them up.
I was thinking about the other one.
I know. Moobs is a shortener for it.
No.
Okay, I'm cutting that. I'm cutting that.
Obviously.
I'm cutting that.
No, obviously. Severe acne is another one that you guys are probably seeing videos online circulating.
The
like,
bacne,
sometimes
a lot of
it's-
bacne.
It's crazy. And that's just like the physical stuff. But, like
Enlarged
I said,
organs, the heart.
enlarged heart, hypertrophy of the heart. And then there's situations where these guys get so big. By the way, bodybuilders drop dead at a scary rate at like in their 40s, sometimes even late 30s. And a lot of it because of abuse, steroid abuse. And because quite frankly, they get too big, too muscular. And if you think about it, your heart has to work so hard to circulate blood through all those muscles that it just can't take it anymore.
Somebody mentioned that one of these one of these well-known bodybuilders, I won't say his name, I don't remember if I've had the right guy, was so big that going up a flight of stairs would get him winded.
Yeah.
Because of how demanding it was for his body. That's crazy. Like,
Yeah, and then
you think you're so
and then somebody
fit.
fired back with like, well, he was just out of shape cardiovascularly. Like,
Yeah, but
that's
you know how
an
much
excuse.
cardio you have to do to make all that muscle mass?
People don't realize that your heart has to work a lot to maintain all that muscle. Like you still have to pump blood to those muscles. And if you're somebody who is genetically meant to be 170 pounds like us, and all of a sudden you're at 225, 235,
Your heart is working
overtime
overtime.
for years. Not to mention the amount of pressure you put on it, which is another thing. Blood pressure increases as well. So anyway, there's a lot of bad stuff.
A
can
myriad
happen.
of bad things.
Of course, the more steroids you do and the more you stack these things together, the worse the health consequences. I do believe that you can, quote unquote, get away with doing a little dabbling here and there, doing it in a smart way where you don't get, exaggerated.
But it's a slippery
and
slope.
It's a slippery slope, but you can probably, because there's outliers. You can make it to older age if you do it that way.
And speaking of that, I think that there's an interesting phenomenon, and we always talk about it. The people that are the most fit, or in this case, the biggest, have that like body dysmorphia that they keep seeing. Like, okay, I'm not big enough. Okay, maybe I'll dabble a little more. And that little dabble turns into that slippery slope that we talk about. Before you know it, you're abusing it.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the end of the video, but the moderator asked them, like, I've noticed that the natural guys are all like showing
showing
skin,
off, and the others are covered
the other guys
up,
are
yeah.
wearing these giant shirts, and it's because the bigger you get, these guys literally get bigorexia,
Yep.
which is the opposite of anorexia. And I remember seeing a documentary.
Manorexia, they call it too.
Really?
Yeah.
Where this guy was as big as you can possibly be. He was a tank. He was like 300 pounds or something like that. And 6'2", huge, but he would wear a giant sweater everywhere. And if he took pictures, he would have to be on the very end of the picture, which is a hack, by the way. You want to look bigger, stand on the very end of the picture because the camera angle will look wider
and
there.
lean into it.
Yeah, if you stand in the middle, you're cooked. So that guy had to. It was like this crazy self-consciousness of I have to wear a sweater.
sad.
I have to sit all the way at the end. It's like, oh, if I didn't look big enough, like no, don't post that. It's messed up.
Also,
but
you can't really wear regular clothes. Have you seen bodybuilders in suits? I'm gonna put a picture of them right here. They look ridiculous. So,
You're either gonna wear an oversized suit that now you look fat,
Or you look
you're
like a
gonna
2000s NBA
Conor
player.
McGregor.
You wear a 2002 NBA player draft suit.
Who the fuck is that guy? So some of the things that the steroid guys said about this, we're still on the same prompt, is there's a big difference between steroid abuse and steroid use. What would you say to that?
I mean, we kind of just dabbled into it. Most of the people that you just use, not abuse,
you
use end up abusing it because you're never happy. And if you are,
abuse you.
you already do. And if you do that,
He
if you
abuses me on this podcast.
on the podcast, but outside of here, I'm abused. I'm an abused child, and I'm 35 years old. So as I was saying, we just discussed it. I don't know anybody, or I rarely do I know people that use TRT or testosterone replacement.
which we're gonna get into.
People do that a lot more controlled because usually you're under supervision of a doctor. Somebody's like guiding you, giving you the exact increments that you need to take. Whereas normal anabolic steroids, you're usually on your own, or one of your boys is telling you. And let's be honest, you're never happy.
I mean, it's first of all, it's illegal, so you're getting it on the black market.
You already got to do some shady shit to
Yeah.
get it. And you're never going to be happy. From what I've seen, you're never content. Like the people that are taking it, and they want more muscle mass. So they end up, oh, I know how to do it. I know what I'm doing. And they end up taking more. And that use quickly becomes abuse.
Also, think about it. This isn't regulated by any governing body, by the FDA or by anybody. So you're buying something from Germany. It comes to you, and then it's like,
genes.
okay, I guess I'll do whatever amount.
0.5 milliliters.
Yeah, whatever amount. And like, who's to say whether it's use or abuse? Because there isn't a tested way. There's no clinical trials. There's none of that. Some of these guys were taking like horse, like stuff that was meant for animals and stuff. Oh, it's crazy. It's wild out there.
Try it.
The other thing is the guy said, which I thought was an interesting point, was that testosterone levels are historically low, which is actually true.
Yeah, I saw that
so like
one.
men nowadays have they're getting lower and lower. So the average testosterone levels in like the 70s and
They have the
before
testosterone
that,
of like the average of women back in the day.
that was a lie. I don't know
Okay.
where that guy got that from, but I really doubt that. But
Oh,
anyway,
so you don't know. Producer, can you look it
I
up?
don't, but let's look it up after this. Let's fact check it. But he was like, well, what's more dangerous? Taking a little bit of steroids or having historically low, like really, really low test levels, which is not good for men. Like having low T, like legitimately low T, brings a plethora of health issues that are pretty bad as well.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting point.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily
Maybe a little
agree,
exaggerated, but
because at the end of the day, we can increase testosterone through lifestyle and exercise. Most of the people that I know that exercise routinely and take care of their health don't have low T. However, not everyone. I do want to talk about legitimate low T because that is a thing. And sometimes it plagues. So, I mean, we know a few people personally that were doing all the things, and then all of a sudden, these were people that just never had any health issues. And then all of a sudden, from mood swings to depression to
low energy.
Lethargy to erectile dysfunction and things like that. Like you start getting this like the opposite of feeling like that vigor that you feel when you're like a 22-year-old male.
Yeah, these are all things. These are like the components of, and say what we will, what makes a man feel like a man.
Absolutely.
Your libido, your energy, your strength, all this stuff is like you're a man. You all of a sudden you don't
start to
have
lose
that.
all that.
So like you said, it causes depression. People get down in the dumps. So
lack of sleep, and then that becomes a vicious cycle where those symptoms are causing you to make bad decisions, and then you don't want to work out anymore. And so you should go get tested if that's the case, and in which case, if you do have low T, which is an actual diagnosis, then testosterone replacement therapy, which is becoming more popular and more accepted, less taboo, is definitely an option for you. And if you do that, it'll change your life.
Yeah.
It'll legitimately change your life.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Like I was saying
Absolutely
earlier,
not.
I think that's A-okay. You're, again, regulated. You're getting your blood work done, all that stuff to make sure you're healthy. Because that's what we care about ultimately. When you start your fitness journey, it should be about getting healthy.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the only excusable way, really.
And that's a really good point, because my next point that the steroid guys said is that steroid use can be therapeutic. In some cases, steroids are what would make you take you from like bad health to better health. And then the other guy, the European guy, who I thought was the most reasonable of the bunch, was like,
the Romanian.
Yeah, he was like, yeah, but most guys that are in the gym taking steroids are not doing it for therapeutic.
They're doing it for
use.
vanity.
And that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And they're not doing it because they have low T. Some of these guys are young, which that I would definitely not
That's
recommend.
scary,
When
yeah.
you still have good testosterone levels, if you're 27 or even 34, and you have good test levels, I wouldn't recommend making them like superhuman test levels.
And then what happens when you're turning 30?
Exactly.
Like,
the other
come
thing
on,
people
man.
don't know about TRT is that, from what and again, we're not scientists, researchers, none of that, but we do look into this a lot. From what I've heard from the smart guys, you kind of have to be on it for the rest of your life, because, like I said, the body is already used to not making as much testosterone, and then once you start introducing and you get to a healthy level, with the monitoring and all that, you might have to just continue taking that into older age. So you don't want to start that at 30.
No.
You know, most of these guys that started legitimately are like in their 40s
Yeah.
or later.
Which I think is, that's when you should. If you're gonna start testosterone, like, that's.
And not everybody needs that. Like, our dad is a good example. He just turned 69, and the guy's solid. He checks his test levels. He's solid. His performance is good, at least in the gym. I don't know anywhere else, but he's muscular. He's fit. Is that weird to say?
That's okay. Keep going.
La bombita.
Yeah.
How does that work?
All right. So our next sponsor, thanks guys so much.
We'll take a quick break.
The Bomb, aka La Bombita. That's something that men, especially down here in South Florida, get. It's a little attachment that I'm guessing gets sewn in, and there's two ways to control it. You can either pump yourself here on the side, or you can pump through the testicles, and it forces,
No, you do not.
Yeah, you do.
You grab your testicle? No, you don't. That's a lie.
I
That's
swear.
a bold-faced lie.
Google it.
There's no way.
Google it. You're gonna get
Your
our sponsors.
testicle. You grab your own
No,
testicle.
your friends.
Oh man, I mean, your actual testes you squeeze.
Oh, I don't know about that. I've never done it.
No, that's what I'm saying.
And then you're ready to go.
Yeah, oh my God.
We'll let you know. We'll let you know more.
Polito.
No, you can let your wife do it. Your wife could do it for you, even better.
That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is
I know,
what
grabbing
is
the
in-
balls. I know
What
it's
is
hurt.
in your
It's
balls?
pain. I know.
It cannot be like your gonads. It has to be either something they put in your balls.
That's a hard pecker. So you press right around the ball. It's on the ball.
No, you're right, but it's not. Oh,
It's on the ball.
It's in the middle of your balls. You squeeze them together, because that's fun. You put that in there, and then you pump
kid
your
did not
balls.
comb his hair. Look at
Like
that guy's
the old Reebok shoes.
Yeah, the old Reeboks, but don't over pump them, or you'll just come.
All right, this one we can all discuss. All right, we have some good minds in here to discuss it. So somebody from the steroid side said other dangerous things are promoted, like the UFC, MMA, NFL,
Yeah.
like football.
People love
These
it.
things are also dangerous. Actually, they're pretty dangerous, probably more than a lot of these other things. And then they're still promoted, and not only promoted, but like highly celebrated. So what's different
Glorified,
from steroid use than from, say, I'm a high-level football player or an MMA fighter?
I don't think there's really any difference, but you're not going to be a professional NFL player. So if you're going to do something, and how I see it is, if you're going to put yourself at risk and you're going to do all these things, you better at least be getting paid for it. If I'm in the gym putting my life, you are putting your life at risk by injecting myself with steroids. What am I getting out of it?
Okay,
Like,
so
I just look
So
good?
then your argument is, let's say if you do want to compete, let's say on a professional bodybuilding level, then you better be prepared that comes with risks.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
unless you want to be like a true natural bodybuilder, which do exist, but there's not as much money or as much clout.
Or as much exposure, definitely not.
I think that brings up a really good point about like the risk to reward ratio. Like the higher you're willing to put yourself in these positions, whether you're an Olympic athlete or like a Lance Armstrong that's doing like Tour de France or a UFC fighter, you have to take certain risks to get to that level of glory. Like I don't think it's very hard for that glory to come without the risk, because it's so competitive at the top.
Absolutely. And none of those things come without some sort of risk.
Yeah.
Whether you're training to be a UFC athlete, you're getting your ass kicked, you're getting the CTE.
Getting hit in the head.
NFL, you're getting CTE, you're getting tackled a lot. All of these things come with their own danger, but you're aware of that danger you're putting yourself in.
Hopefully,
unless you're very young. But if you're trying to do these things that come with that glory, there's a risk involved. I don't think steroids for recreation comes with any sort of that benefit.
Yeah.
Besides vanity.
And again, I think that my biggest pet peeve and my biggest problem I have with this is, and you see it on TikTok all the time from what I hear, is that you see teenagers on steroids openly, which I'm glad they're openly, but there's a lot of ones that are lying about it. And there's a 19-year-old kid, he's jacked, huge, ripped, muscular, vascular, and then all these other kids are like, man, he's only 19 and I'm 18, I don't look nothing like that, you know? And you think it's the perception, which we're going to talk about next, actually, about the unrealistic standards, because I know as somebody who's, 30, almost 38, have been doing this for a long time and read a lot of books and gone to school for this, I know what's possible. So you can't fool me as like, oh, this guy's natural, this guy's not. But if I was 16, 17, which I was at one point, and I was impressionable, and I would look at these bodybuilding magazines or Teen Nation, and I would be like,
you're never
I wanna
more
look like
self-conscious.
that.
You're never.
I want to look like this guy. Like, yeah, that's achievable. That's achievable. Like, I had no idea what was achievable because you're impressionable. You're young.
Yeah. And at that age, you're so self-conscious about everything. Like, you don't want to go to the gym. I was always a skinny kid growing up. Going to the gym and like not being able to bench press the bar, is embarrassing. Like, who wants that? So it's such a slippery slope of seeing that, comparing yourself, like you said, comparing yourself, and then jumping on a cycle when you're still a teenager, when your testosterone is at an all-time high. Like,
big
that's
mistake.
a very, very big mistake that you don't want. You don't like. Kids shouldn't even consider it.
And let's be honest, who doesn't want the easy gains? And I'm not taking away the hard work. Yeah, but guess what? Natural people work hard too.
Yeah.
We worked our asses off at the gym for these wimpy 14-inch arms. Like, seriously, we also work our ass off, so don't give me that. But it's like, hey, kid, would you rather gain 20 pounds of muscle in the next 6 months or gain 2?
It's the same as like telling somebody, hey, you're gonna start a small business, but with nothing, you're gonna hustle your ass off, or you're gonna start a small business and here's $500,000 to get you started.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, both could work hard and both could reach some sort of high limit, but one is definitely has an unfair advantage.
And let's be honest, everyone at 17, they're not thinking about, when I'm 60, I want to be healthy and I want to think about longevity. They're thinking about how jacked can I get, bro? I want to get ripped.
How many girls can I attract with this physique?
I want to drive a Range Rover.
I want to get ass, bro. But really, you're thinking like you're going to attract a bunch of girls and all you're going to do is get a bunch of dudes complimenting your physique.
Yeah, if there are any young guys listening to this, which I don't know why there would be, but maybe there are. Girls don't necessarily like that super ripped physique, so
I don't know if you saw in the video.
Validating to
all
say,
the steroid guys got so defensive when they're like, women don't really like too much. That's not true. No, where'd you read that? No, I didn't see that. It's 100% true.
Physique girls will like it.
100% true. Regular women don't like being with those, sorry to call you that, freaks.
Yeah, those enormous dudes or the guys that are like 8 packs with veins coming out everywhere. A lot of like 9 out of 10 women would probably be like, and we're speaking for them right now, but just from experience, will be like, oh, that's too much.
It's too much.
Like, a lean physique, like they like the
lean
athletic
cuisine.
look.
Yeah, lean cuisine.
Lean cuisine.
But they also like, they start visualizing like, what would life be? That person's life must be all gym, all this, all like. So I don't want to live. Yeah,
and they see it as like narcissistic. Somebody that's that into themselves.
Which it is. No bodybuilder is gonna tell me they're not narcissists.
Yeah. Shout out to my wife who thought I was narcissistic.
You were.
I kind of was.
Mirror selfies.
On my Instagram, she was like,
mirror selfies showing off the abs and the. Oh, sorry, I can't call them that. The V cuts.
Damn, I was lift the shirt and.
That's fine. I'll mute myself.
Duck face too?
Ugh.
No, I didn't do the duck face. Look through that Beef It by Jay, you won't see no duck faces.
Yeah, he removed the duck face. He removed the duck face pictures.
Those are archived.
Better let's hit the camera up with a good duck face for the zoom. 1, 2, 3.
Wait. I'm on a sexier one. Hold on.
All right, ready?
Sexier one.
1, 2, 3. And I'm gonna put the modeling picture of us here just as sailors.
No! Next prompt. The body positivity movement has gone too far.
We have to touch on this one.
Some of these niddos didn't even know about the body positivity movement, which is interesting that they're in that world, but they don't really.
I guess they're so deep into the muscle world that they don't dive into the general population world of fitness, which is like normalizing, being comfortable in your body and being healthy, even though, let's be honest, being obese is not healthy.
Yeah, I have a very quick and simple, and we'll get away from this one, but it's like I totally agree with body positivity when it comes to we don't need to glorify like being super lean and super ripped and skinny like we used to. I think that's a toxic mentality. However, once you start saying be comfortable and happy and positive about your body, no matter what, even if you're morbidly obese, it's like,
that's not okay.
All right, can we be reasonable here?
Yeah.
You can show yourself self-love while also working to, hey, I know I'm in an unhealthy level of fat and I would want to go down. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. We don't need to take it so far as like what happened a few years ago. It's already on its way down, but like they were putting obese people in fitness magazine being like, love your body. The new fit, the new
fat
healthy.
Is the new fit.
Like,
no.
All right, you've taken that a little too far, but I think that was obvious to anybody with, who's reasonable.
Yeah. So obviously we work in a gym and we work with all different body types, and I'm always preaching for people to be comfortable with how they look. But there's no denying that if you do blood work and if you go to the doctor and they tell you you're not healthy, that's just not okay. So whether you want to be happy being 200 pounds overweight or lie to yourself and tell you that it's okay, it's fine to be content with how you look, but it's not okay because you're not healthy. You're not.
It's also like
It's not like your longevity is
I don't appreciate something about popular culture in the last few years where it's like it's taboo to say things that are objectively true. Like that is not healthy. Don't lie and say, yeah, obese is the new healthy. Yeah. It's not, And what's crazy about this body positivity movement exploded in their faces because people like Lizzo were like the face of it, and then guess what? Even she's trying to lose weight, and she gets a lot of hate for it because aren't you supposed to be the face of it? It's like, yeah, but I recognize that I go to the doctor and they tell me your triglycerides are too high. I need to, start eating healthier, and there's nothing wrong with that. You shouldn't be shaming Adele or Lizzo for trying to lose weight.
No way.
So can we just say the truth?
Yeah.
That's not that healthy, Now, whether you want to love yourself for being in a bigger body, I totally agree with that, and I agree with you too.
We're not calling anybody, like, we're not saying it's ugly or something. Nobody's gonna like you. No.
Absolutely.
Also, it's not just being overweight. I think we're going back to like the 90s way of some people are they're trying to fit into this whole being fit culture, and they're overdoing it, and then they're getting and they're forming eating disorders.
Yeah, can we talk about the hypocrisy of Hollywood of like, yeah, girl, love yourself. And by the way, it's girl because there's no body positivity in male spaces.
No, males just
we're
shit
gonna
on
give
each
it to
other.
you straight.
We just shit on each other.
You're fat, lose the gut.
Hey, fatty, yeah.
But so it's like, yeah, love yourself, girl, and then go see the Hollywood actresses.
Yeah,
They're
love
all
yourself.
Rails.
Love yourself.
As thin as can possibly be.
You guys love yourself. We're gonna have
We're gonna still be.
We're gonna do whatever we want.
We're gonna hop on Ozempic and whatever other crazy drugs they have us on. So I'm sorry, don't lecture us on that.
The hypocrisy from Hollywood is always nuts.
All right, let's move on to the next one. Well, perfect segue. Steroid use leads to unrealistic standards. There's no debate about this. 100%.
If we had $1 for every time somebody asks us, "Is The Rock natural?" and we have to be here like, yeah, you could put on 20 pounds of muscle in your mid-50s. Like,
look at The Rock when he was in his prime at 26 when he was wrestling, and go look at The Rock now. He's somehow in better shape. And that's the thing, people are ignorant. They really think that, well, he works harder now. He just exercises all the time. Don't you see his Instagram?
Chicken.
He wakes up at 4:30 in the morning. And if you were to just download ChatGPT and ask it these questions. Can a 55-year-old man build muscle the same way that a 30-year-old man can or a 25-year-old man? You're going to see no. You have like half the testosterone. It just doesn't work that way. We lose a lot of muscle as we age. So when you see a dude that's in his 50s or in his late 40s and they're like so jacked that you're like, wow, that is impressive, you can almost bet that they're on steroids. Now, if they're just lean, you can be lean at that age. And by lean, I just mean like you can see maybe a six-pack or like you can see the veins and stuff. But if they're very muscular and lean, it's like dead giveaway.
Dead giveaway.
Dead giveaway.
My
got
big testicles.
Because we see
this dude every day. But seriously, then
we ribs
with this dude. So you see a lot of it too, like their face change and stuff, and then people are still wondering. Like I'll bring back Kumail. Guy put on an insane amount of muscle in like less than a year or two. Completely changed. Even his face structure, everything changed. Like, oh my God, he looks great. I'm going to do the Kumail workout.
By the way, you can't change your jawline by working out. I'm sorry. You can get leaner, and like if you have a chubby face, you can like refine your face a little. But the guy went from like, boom, boom.
Yeah, like a superhero jaw.
Which is another one of those consequences. If you see women who take steroids, you're going to see a more masculine jawline. You're gonna see a lot of these features that's like more hair, body hair, and that kind of stuff. So
no, and then the worst part is, and it goes back to the false expectations. Those douchebag trainers will be like, the Wolverine workout. Oh my God, I want to look like Wolverine. Like, no, Wolverine workout is taking gear and then going to the gym.
And I hate the fact that Men's Health, that like, dude, it's in the title, Men's Health, is promoting these things. Bullshit. And the reason why it's very obvious is because it's an attention grabber. It's like, do Hugh Jackman's workout that he did to get fit for Wolverine.
I'll never forget a few years ago when the Jersey Shore was a thing, and I was in an airport, and I'm looking through the magazines because I'm not going to buy one. I was just looking through them, and it's The Situation, lifting a shot. I was like...
First of all, he didn't look great.
He looked terrible.
Yep, I posted about that.
And now it's like, he's on Men's Health. I'm like, this is Men's Health? This is pathetic.
Yeah. Shame on you, Men's Health.
Shame on you, Men's Health.
Respected you.
I'm canceling my subscription.
One thing I want to talk about is, because again, there's a lot of ignorance out there about what a fit person should, like, we're talking about a lot about men here because men have the steroid problem a lot more than women. I don't think most women watching this would be like, I'd love to get on steroids and get really, really muscular.
95% of our women are like, I don't want to gain too much muscle, which is not going to happen. But let's talk about, I always bring up like the evolutionary aspect of these things. Like if you look at historically what men should look like, and people think like, we talked about it before, like the Vikings and Neanderthals and these kind of people like way back when were like jacked and ripped. No, they were thin and ripped. They didn't have that much body fat, but they weren't like, they didn't look anything like an influencer would. Yeah.
So you always have to look at what did humans look like for hundreds of thousands of years. Oh, they looked like thin, little bit of muscle, but not too much because they were doing just like everyday physical activity. Like that's when we talk about standards, like the standard of what a fit man looks like. I hate every time I see like a Patrick Mahomes or a Travis Kelce or one of these guys that doesn't look like crazy insane ripped, and it's like, wow, that's what a professional athlete looks like with that dad bod, and it's like that dad bod guy is smoking people out there.
He's an elite athlete.
Why the hell do you think that guy needs to be ripped?
1% like
exactly. And again, that's idiots thinking that you need to look like, jacked and ripped to be a professional athlete. You don't. But anyway, to leave this and kind of finish with the last one, I think young men are particularly like harmed by this. But now that I think about it, not really. Like middle-aged men too, because nowadays it's become fashionable to have like the old guy with a bunch of grays that's like insanely ripped, and all these guys. We have even women that follow like older ladies that are insanely ripped, and like that's the stand. Like, yeah, I work out all the time, but why? I don't want to look like this girl. Look at this girl, and it's like, first of all, stop comparing yourself to people. That's a losing battle.
That's the worst thing.
And second of all, you never know what people are on. Those people have all the incentive in the world, and they talk about it to be on something to maintain that look, because guess what? I'm getting paid a shit ton of money, so we would all think about it too if we were getting paid.
Just be honest about it. I feel like that's my only issue with it. Like, be honest, because if not, you are setting up these unrealistic expectations for people.
But most people won't be, because they know that about 40% of their audience or more will be like, oh, I don't respect you anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't think it should be like that.
I have
the utmost respect. Like this guy, Larry Wheels, I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but
it's one of the most famous.
He was yoked, right? And he said it straight up. First of all, he started having health consequences like in his 20s.
Yeah.
And he was like, look, I've done a ton of steroids. That's why, I have good genetics, but like I also did a lot of steroids. And now he's talking, like his whole thing now is talking about his journey with the steroid and stopping it and all that stuff. Which is great. Dude, there needs to be more people like that. I hate these fake natty or half natty guys that they play around with it. They toy around with the whole like, am I not?
Yeah.
It's like, bro, just say it, because you don't want it to be like a Liver King issue where you deny. Guess what? You got caught. And now you look like a loser.
Yeah. Unfortunately, nowadays, people have such a short attention span that they just forget. And I'm sure there's still a bunch of people out there following Liver King and buying his supplements and falling for his whole gimmick, even though he got unearthed. Like, so...
Yeah, well, at least the more that people like us talk about it with our huge reach, the more that these kind of things can start changing in the culture.
Hopefully.
All right, last one is there's no such thing as too much muscle. That was the prompt.
I strongly disagree.
Obviously, this is very subjective.
Yeah, and
start there
for sure. And I said it earlier. There's like most people, and I agree with what one of the guys said. Most people don't want to be with either end of the spectrum. So like you see the 1% of the 1% of the super jacked muscular guy, 95% of people tell you that's too much. Like you don't look good, you can't scratch your back, you look insane, you look like, and a lot of people call them freaks. And I definitely think there's such a thing as too much muscle.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that they asked these guys that are bodybuilders, that section of the population is going to obviously have their own opinions that are completely different than like the average Joe.
They're probably gonna say no, there's no such thing, like, because they're always trying to get more mass and get bigger. And
yeah, but a few of them are into like what they call the classical look, which is a more like like a 70s and even before that look, which was a little bit more symmetrical, not so much because there's something happened with bodybuilding where it just became like, how big can you get? And then they became actually too big, and now they've actually gone down to a more classical look. But if you look at like the Ronnie Colemans of the world in the 90s, those guys were, God, it was like a tank. It was insane. It was like
muscles
those
on
super
muscles.
cows.
Yeah, the super cows are a great example. You like never stop expanding.
I would say from a health standard, there's absolutely such a thing as too much muscle. We talked about it previously. The body can't handle it. The heart can't handle it. But then from a like just aesthetics and look, then like I said, I think the majority of the population will look at somebody who's like one of those like really, really jacked guys and be like, that's a little too much.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised how like, it's not like the giant guys that you and I are thinking about. It's probably just a guy that's like reasonably built. They'll probably be like, yeah, that's a little bit too much.
Yeah, like one of the guys said, you start losing your waist, you start losing your shape once you start building all that muscle. So I agree. Like I definitely think there's such a thing as too much muscle.
Yeah, I agree as well. And like I said, we have a subjective opinion, but my personal like ideal body type is more symmetry. Is like a slimmer waist and big back. You got that kind of like that X shape. And you don't need to be like super, super huge to achieve that.
Or super, super lean. Like you don't have to be under 5%.
No,
That's-
I would say like
That's
9-10% is a good.
Under 5% as a grown person, as a grown adult, is miserable.
Yeah, absolutely.
Guys, hopefully you like this style of video. We're gonna add some clips in too, so hopefully you enjoyed that. You can watch the whole video, like I said. And if you have any more suggestions for us, leave them in the commentarios, and we'll gladly.
Yeah, besides just
Look 'em
regular
over.
fitness topics, if you see something or something that's happening in the culture, conversations that are being had, send them our way. We definitely want to do more videos critiquing things, discussing these things that are popping up in the culture. So send us those links, and we'll gladly make good content for you guys.
So, guys, see you next week on another episode of the Be Fit Brothers Podcast. Pigs in space. Cats explosion.
All right, inject me now.
Bombitas.
Inject me, daddy.